You've probably heard some people say that the infinite banking concept is just a different means for people to sell whole life insurance. Well, today we're going to talk about what the infinite banking concept is not, and I can most assuredly tell you that is not what the infinite banking concept is. So today we're going to talk through a couple of things that the infinite banking concept isn't. First and foremost, the infinite banking concept is a process. It is not a product. We talked a little bit about this in the last video, but it is not a product. It is a process of controlling the banking function within our lives. It's a process of building out a strong financial foundation in which we can build from. It is not about a particular type of product. While we use a particular type of product for the process, that is not what it's all about. It is fundamentally a process. Secondly, it's not some get-rich-quick scheme. This is not some financial hack. It's really more of a lifestyle. It's a way to understand how money actually works, how money flows, and apply that to our lives through a system that benefits us. It's not some scenario where you take a portion of dollars, you put it into something and hope it grows into something that it's going to suit you well for in the future. That's not what this is. It just does not operate that way. It's more of a long-term thought process, a long-term approach to building wealth. It's about controlling and keeping more of the dollars that flow through your hands. And if you can control a larger volume of dollars that flow through your hands and benefit from it, that's obviously going to benefit you significantly, not only in the short term, but also in the long term. So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not some financial hack. It's about a system of control that you can build and implement. Another one that's popular is this is not an investment. Plain and simple. One, it's a process. Two, the product that's used is a protection product. Guaranteed insurance, such as dividend-paying whole life insurance through a mutual provider, is not an investment. So comparing one thing to another is just the incorrect way to think about it. You don't compare a protection product to an investment. While there might be some growth components to dividend paying whole life insurance, guaranteed growth in the cash value of the contract, dividends that because you're a part owner in the contract that are paid out. Yes, those somewhat feel as though it has some investment components, but comparing it to an investment is actually completely wrong. It's comparing an apple to an orange. It just does not work that way. However, the one thing that I think is important to call out is the infinite banking concept allows a person to finance all the different things that they would normally finance throughout their lifetime, which can include investments. So you can actually purchase investments using the infinite banking concept and provide yourself with a greater level of protection and likely a greater level of success in the investment because of how the process works, and that you're controlling that cash flow and benefiting from it in multiple ways. And an important thing to think about on that front is that everything in life is financed. So you're either going to give up the future earnings that money could have earned for you by paying in cash, or you're going to pay interest to somebody else. So if you kind of think about that basic concept, and that's all ever present in your mind, if I'm using the infinite banking concept to purchase my investments, I'm actually going to benefit more so in the long run than I ever would if I were to simply just pay cash for them, so to speak. But again, that's a different topic, getting a little deeper. But it's an important thing to think about as you're thinking about what the infinite banking concept is or isn't. Another one here is the infinite banking concept is not an indexed universal life policy. It's not a variable universal life policy. In fact, Nelson clearly articulates within Becoming Your Own Banker that we should not use a universal life type contract for the infinite banking concept. And there are a lot of reasons for that, namely in terms of some of the guarantees, the level premium structure that exists within dividend paying whole life insurance. So there's a number of different reasons for that, but it is not an IUL. I do not recommend IULs except for highly specific scenarios. And again, that would not necessarily be in terms of the infinite banking concept. That would actually be more so in estate planning situations. However, that's a different topic for a different day. And the key thing to remember is that IUL and infinite banking do not go together. They are not intended to operate together. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. Another item here that comes up often is because we're talking about taking over the banking process in our lives, this is not about implementing or creating a bank charter. We are not creating an actual bank with the infinite banking concept. What we are talking about is controlling the process of banking, which all of us are bankers. We are all banking, whether we realize it or not, each and every day. It's just that many of us are not controlling the banking process. We are outsourcing that to someone else, namely a third-party institution such as a bank. And that's what's happening. And we're losing control of those dollars as they flow through our hands each and every year. So that being said, this is not about creating a bank. It's about creating a process or controlling the banking process in our lives. And that's what we're doing here. So it's very important that we understand that particular thing. We are not creating a bank charter. Another item that's often is this is not some way to avoid taxes or avoid taxation. We are not trying to, come up with some scheme to avoid taxes. Now, can you benefit from the dollars that you would normally be paying in taxes by utilizing the infinite banking concept if you do it in the right way? More so along the lines if you're a non-W-2 employee, yeah, there's ways, strategies we can do to help with that, but it is not a situation where we're trying to avoid taxes with the infinite banking concept. Sadly, whether we like it or not, we are going to have to pay taxes in some way, shape, or form unless the government were to somehow abolish the income tax, which different topic for a different day, but understand that, it really comes down to when and how do you want to pay taxes? Can we minimize what we pay within the tax code? Yeah, we can. There's different ways to do that, different conversation, of course, but we certainly can utilize the infinite banking concept as a way to protect future growth and future income. We're not going to use the infinite banking concept to necessarily avoid taxes, but what it does help us to see is that we can think differently about our money and store our money in a place that is protected against taxation. It allows it to grow in a tax-free manner, potentially. I say potentially because there are situations where the actions of the person could cause a taxable event. But again, we're properly doing the infinite banking concept, that's not going to happen, in which everything's going to grow in a tax-deferred, ultimately a tax-free manner, and then transfer in a tax-free way. And I think those two areas kind of I don't want to say complicate, but they get people to think that there's some sort of tax, scenario here. But that's just really not the case. That's not why it's utilized. There's a couple other items here that I think we can touch on as well. One is that the infinite banking concept is a scam. It is most definitely not a scam. I know this because I personally use it and implement it, and it works amazingly well. Secondly, it uses a highly regulated product, meaning dividend paying whole life insurance through a mutual provider. And it is something that has stood the test of time. It's a product that's well over 250 years old. That's not a scam. It just simply is not. It's a great product for what it does and allows us the features of the product allow us to control that banking process. And anybody who is saying that it's a scam likely just simply doesn't understand how money is working or flowing. They're missing some of the core fundamental concepts of what the infinite banking concept is actually doing, and probably have a misunderstanding of what the infinite banking concept is. And I would say 99 times out of 100, they probably haven't read Becoming Your Own Banker. They haven't taken the time to really educate themselves about the process. And then lastly, I'll say that some people say that, you're borrowing your own money with the infinite banking concept. And that's just not true. You are borrowing against the cash value in a policy, and that is actually the insurance company's money that you're borrowing. So your money is safe, secure, and earning and growing within the dividend paying whole life insurance contract. And you are benefiting from that, being that you're the contract owner. There are highly favorable repayment terms that you get because it's a fully collateralized loan. And that actually benefits you in terms of how you repay those loans. But if you stop and think differently about the process and understand how money is flowing if I saved up money, we'll use this for a lot of our cash people out there. If you saved up money for a vehicle and you went and purchased a vehicle, that money all left your system and is gone forever. In the situation with a dividend paying whole life insurance contract, if I was saving my money there and I borrowed against my policy for a vehicle, that money is still there working for me and doing all those things. And if I'm a cash person, I still have to go save up for the next vehicle. So instead of saving up for the next vehicle if I'm practicing the infinite banking concept, I'm just replenishing that capital source. It's just filling back up, and I can go do that again. And I'm the one who benefits from that in the long run, because I'm able to recapture some of the interest I would have paid to a bank if I instead took a loan from a bank. There's some of that process happening, but also that I'm not losing out on the cost of the cash, meaning that future earning potential of the cash in that particular situation. So as we kind of wrap up what the infinite banking concept is not, just a brief recap of some of the things here. It's not a great get rich quick scheme. We're not using an IUL. It's not some sort of an investment. It's not a bank charter. We're not doing it to avoid taxes. It's not a scam. All those things, right? Again, this is about building a foundation, a key, strong foundational concept in a system that we can build upon to grow our future financial success and build a pool of wealth in some respects. And that's what it's all about. Now, in our next video, we're actually going to get into the real financial problem that most people never really solve for. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So you'll see that pop up here as one of the next videos. So I'd like to continue to talk to you about that, and we'll move on from here. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.